I call it more aggravated than anything else. Talking about Georgia and NIL right now in the recruiting game, and I wouldn't say frustrated is the right way to put it. I think everybody's still getting used to the new world that is college football recruiting with money out and about. Because in years gone by, it wasn't out and about. Let's just be clear. But now it is, and it's something we wrote about over on Dog Post. I'll show you the link to the article, or show you what the topic looks like. It says Georgia's ranked number one in recruiting rankings for both 24 and 25 right now, and yet there's grumbling about how name, image, and likeness deals are affecting the Bulldogs in recruiting right now. As we reported earlier this season, some programs are aggressively pursuing players committed to Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs. And if you missed that report, it was something that we had in early September, about an ACC team offering one Georgia commit $1.5 million to sign in what one insider called stupid money. Pretty stupid, pretty wild amount of money that we're talking about that's floating out there right now. And I think at Georgia, the challenge right now at Georgia is, and I think this is a challenge for everybody in college football recruiting. What is the future here? What is the future going to be for these programs? What are the rules? Like, not just the actual rules, like, because the notion that Congress is going to get anything done in what's going to be an election year in about 3 months, no, that's not happening. By the way, you're taking a look at our EcoPoly line. This is our rocker that we've got. Our friends at EcoPoly are awesome. You can get 15% off any item on their store. It is a great way to furnish the outside of your home. Check it out today. This is a look at, a pool setting. These are durable items that you can get in a slew of colors for different products and so forth. This is the actual rocker that I'm using right now. As you can see, you can get this in a slew of different colors. If you have a beach theme, very comfortable, 20-year warranty, made in the heart of Georgia. Make sure you're checking that out. But what I was talking about was what is the future here? Well, what is the present? Because just because you sign with someone doesn't mean that you're going to be there the whole time. I mean, if you look at Tresman Marshall, he's at Alabama. Bear Alexander, he's at USC. Robert Thomas is at Georgia. You get the point. I mean, what are we really talking about here? Is this a world where guys? So I'm not sure totally what the rules are, and I've done this for a while. I'm not sure if I don't know what the rules are that there are rules. So the leagues have not adjusted to this. The state legislatures have tried. They seem to be acting quicker, but there's 50 states. So what is legal in Texas may or may not be legal in Georgia. And of course, the NCAA, which is the schools themselves, is completely impotent on every single issue as it relates to NIL. I personally, my view of the world is I've done 4 NIL deals with players that y'all know. I mean, we promoted it, and a lot of people really got a great experience out of that. And those were positive events. We did it with our friends at Red Zone on Clayton Street, downtown in Athens, on a Sunday night. It was after Georgia beat Kentucky and headed into the Tech Week, I think it was, in 22. And that was a positive experience. But that was after Keely Ringo made a bunch of plays for Georgia. He made perhaps the you'll never forget play, which is right there on the cover of Dogstruction, where he took off and made a pick six on the final not the final play of the game, but the final scoring play of the game for Georgia and Alabama. We're talking about right now getting guys to visit campus. I mean, I don't know how old the video is or was of Nick Saban talking about or reacting to Ohio State's athletic director saying that it's taking $5,000 for guys to visit. first of all, I don't think that number, that sounds low to some degree to me, just to be honest with you, from what I know in the past. But that's been thrown around before NIL. But what is so tricky here for Georgia specifically is that they're the number one team in the country. They have the number one consensus recruiting class in 24. It's very early in 25, but they're the number one in 25 for now. And I think the frustration for Georgia is they feel like we've got a particular pattern that we've developed here. We go, we win games, we hoist trophies, we win championships, and then those players get paid tens of millions of dollars in guaranteed money to go play in the NFL, which is everybody's dream. And now we're fighting against, speaking as Georgia, as if I'm a coach, which I'm not, or if you're Alabama, whoever, saying we've got something that's working. And now this has been so disruptive, we can't tell what's what. And it's the schools that have not been traditional powers lately who are really disrupting things right now. South Carolina, Miami, and Auburn. But particularly Florida State and Miami, I think, are the two to pay the most attention to because, it's been a rough, for Florida State, it's been a rough 10 years. For Miami, it's probably been a rough almost 20 years. And those schools want to go win. But what's happening right now is Georgia is trying to convince guys that the upfront money is not the same as the long-term money. That's the way I'm putting it. They can, if somebody from Georgia wants to come on and talk about this, because I know people watch it, maybe not everybody in the football program or football facility watches it, but if they want to come on or even talk off the record in background about it, they can. But we talked to some people already, and that's where we get this from. And there is a particular, I don't know if frustration is the right word. I'm trying to kind of not overdo it with the way I'm describing it. I think there's an acknowledgement that there's some grumbling. That's the way I put it. There's some grumbling about how are we supposed to do this? Like, for instance, let's just take the player who I'm not going to talk about who it was and say they're the ones, they have a $1.5 million offer from an ACC school to sign. Does that mean, and I don't know, I'm legitimately not sure the answer to this, does that mean they get 1.5 to sign? Like, I don't think that's probably right. So is it 1.5 to sign, or is it, 500 to sign, and then you get the next million and 250 and $250,000 annual payments? If you don't stay there, then you don't get the money. Or is it that you get a lump sum of 1.5 the day you enroll? Or, where's that money coming from? How do the players know that they're going to get that money for sure? A lot of these entities are fly-by-nights, and there's been a lot of grumbling about, now, I don't mean that any particular one, but there's been a lot of grumbling about collectives and so forth. It makes me think about what Aaron Murray and Keith Marshall and everybody's done at Players Lounge. But those guys, everybody, Carson Beck is a starting quarterback at Georgia. That's a very different conversation for having him as a guest and compensating him as a guest versus Carson Beck from, Mandarin High School, where there's no certainty. A lot of people have never been in business before. They don't understand what business is. I don't think, clearly, because there is not a return on investment here for the bulk of players. You have 85 scholarship players. You cannot pay everybody. It is not mathematically feasible to pay everybody $1.5 million. Your locker room will be a disaster. Well, first of all, you can't afford it. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say that. That's not something that the market will not bear that out over time. It just will not. Unless something has come in and changed, unless like there's a new television network that's coming out and paying, upwards of $80 million a year to the schools, then I don't know where the 80, well, it'd be more than $80 million. I mean, 1.5 times 85 is not 80. That's 127,000. That's $128,000 in costs for the payment. That does not include what it costs to run the program itself, what it costs to reimburse the University of Georgia for the scholarship. Oh yeah, they have to reimburse them. That does not include all of medical. Well, that's the program, the uniforms, all this stuff. Each player, it's probably probably $100,000 a year if they're out of state. Brock Bowers probably costs Georgia minimum, and this is total back of the envelope. I don't probably cost them because he's out of state. That's 50 G's to the university. You know, all of the dietary, medical, training, etc. You know, how much Brock Bowers costs, how much of Todd Hartley's costs is Brock Bowers' scholarship, you know, so all of these things. So like people have never done this before, and they're just desperate to get players, and there's just no rhyme or reason right now. Now, I'll say this about all this thing that's going on at Georgia. You can't be Clemson. Or, well, excuse me. You cannot be Dabo and just say, I don't like this, and stick your head in the ground. If you're going to be that way, that's an extreme position. We don't do extremism here, okay? If you're going to do that, you should not be in college football. If you're going to dismiss the new reality, you cannot be in college football. It's not the right place for you. You should go to coach in high school, and I'm not being a smartass. I'm being dead serious. Or you can go to the NFL, which has, you know, established parameters. Right now, the real failure is that we do not have an overarching policy that will create boundaries. However, as a capitalist, and having been one for some time now, I'm really sketchy about telling people how much money they can earn. And, you know, these players, they are earning the universities and the institutions a lot of money. But I think the market is not catching up and has not caught up with what reality is on the ground. When that will happen, I don't know. But until then, I think we're going to see some grumbling along the way, including from Georgia.